Welcome back. We're so glad that you came back to us for this final session, and we still have a lot of things to talk about with transportation. I'm going to ask that we put up some phone numbers for you. First, we want to talk about Salli Kerr. If you want to get in touch with her, you can call her at the number that's on the screen right now. Be sure to write that down. And again, if you have any questions about anything that she said today, she's the Transportation Committee Chair, and so you may need to talk to her about that. And for Albert Bass, if you need to talk to him, because again, he's the mobility manager, and he can answer a lot of the technical questions that come up. These are the two that I talk to all the time. And because we're going to be talking about VetTrans also this session, that's the transportation for the veterans, then you can call the VetTrans number. And by calling them, schedule transportation, they're asking that you call in advance to set it up. And this is for medical appointments or for pharmaceutical needs. So VetTrans is there, free to the veterans and their caregivers. So it's there, it's available. Don't miss it. Okay, let's go back and let's talk about some of the things that we want to really talk about of where we are and where we're going in transportation. Who wants to start this?
Well, we are moving into the grant cycle again for transportation. The grant should be coming out any day. As most people would recognize, the fares that are provided by riders do not fund the entirety of a transportation program.
Okay.
They're typically provided with additional funding from NDOT and other sources of grant funding. And so that grant, we are expecting to see that just about any day. And that grant would typically run a cycle of October 1 as a begin date.
Okay.
So there's, in the next few months, going to be a lot of information being put into that grant process. And we are going to be, again, asking for community support. We're going to want letters to show that people support public transportation. And we are going to want people to literally help us with making financial commitments in the manner of matching funds. So in a previous grant cycle, we had $25,000 from our community that was pledged to help in the matching fund process with the transportation.
Okay.
And we are in the process of calling those folks and making sure that they are still willing and able to pledge those amounts. And then I believe that you will definitely see us again, at places in our community where we're trying to collect those pledges and making people aware of that system coming up and starting. And again, in that grant process, it's important for funders to see that we have community support.
And by that community support, we need your support. So
Right.
we need you to let your commissioners know that you support the program. And when you see them in the community asking for your support, go ahead and sign a letter saying that you support this program.
Right.
That's how we're going to get the program here.
Right.
I do need to let our engineer know that our timer is not working at this point, so we need to know how much time we have left.
Yeah. One of the other things, Tom, was I get asked a lot about the economic development side and and how our local economics is impacted by having public transportation. Salli talked a lot about people getting to and from jobs, getting to and from stores, getting to and from places where they need to do shopping. All of that ties into our local economics. The largest study ever done on public transportation for rural communities was done by the FTA, the Federal Transit Association, and that was done in over a 14-year period in 1,200 rural communities like ours. And what that study showed after all that time, that there was an average of $1.1 million in economic benefit to those small communities, just from the public transportation side. So there's a lot there economically.
That goes back to what Salli was saying earlier about the fact that people can get to jobs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I've actually had people call my office to ask what were their transportation options, because I remember one girl, it was her first job, and it was at a fast food restaurant. Her mother used to take her to and from work. She was 17 years old. She didn't have a driver's license. And there were 2 days her mother was very ill and could not take her. She couldn't find any friends. She couldn't find any family, anyone else to take her to work. She lost her job because she couldn't get there for 2 days. And I'm sure that happens, many times over because, employers need employees to be there.
Absolutely.
Facebook cannot be our method of public transportation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I've seen that actually on Facebook at times where people are asking for rides to places. You know, I have to get here. Is anybody going into Vegas at this time and date? So those are the needs that we want to fill and the gaps that we want to make sure we're providing for.
Right. And there's also the spending side. So there's the economic benefit of getting folks to work.
Yes.
And then there's also the benefit of getting them to stores.
Mm-hmm.
And so
for shopping.
For shopping and other things. And so if they can't get there, they can't spend.
Okay.
And so some of what Albert was talking about was literally where they can show in a store the benefit of consumers that were able to come in and spend money that they might not have otherwise been able to spend.
A good example is the Vet Trans program, which is now providing free transportation to vets. There's times where I've had to fill in for our drivers who needed a day off, and then I would go and take the clients to their appointments. And in one day, I had 2 people tell me, one of the veterans we picked up hadn't been out of his house in 5 months because he can't drive, he has no transportation, he relies on neighbors to bring him food. He hadn't been to any doctor's appointments because it wasn't working with his neighbor's schedule, who was also an elder person.
Okay.
And now with the Vet Trans program, he's out and getting appointments every week and tying into those appointments. He's getting out of the home. He's not such homebound. Another gentleman whose wife had been in the hospital for many months, and she was his form of transportation. He hadn't been going to any of his medical appointments. He's been trying to get his meds by mail, some of which he couldn't get because he couldn't get to a pharmacy to get them.
Okay.
And it had been very difficult to him. He had been relying on a neighbor when he could. Now with the Vet Trans programs for the veterans, he's able to get out and get to his appointments and to get some help he needs. You know, a year ago, we didn't have that available. And now he has that. He could have used programs. I've told these people, there's the Senior Center program you could have used, but they're just unaware of what is there and available.
And that's why you're here today.
Right.
Correct.
To make sure that you're aware of the programs that are available and what we're trying to do to enhance those programs.
Right, and let's not lose sight of the fact that Vet Trans has been an extremely successful program.
Right.
And so we can look to that as a success already. We get to use that. We get to use that program as either a match or against operations as the bigger program unfolds. Our county commissioners can look to that already as a success. They know that it can be trusted. They know that that program has been run and operational, and so we have the benefit of the trust that they can put in that, and it's vastly important. I mean, like that program has really proven that we can do it.
Yeah, we're just a couple of months away from having this program in operation for a year now.
Right.
And we're serving over 80 veterans, over 80 clients on our roster. Last month alone, we did 5 pages of rides.
Okay.
And so it's been very successful. And now...
And it's growing every month, isn't it?
It's growing, yes. We're getting a lot of information out. We're in different events around town. The bus will be in the parade this, for Fall Festival.
Okay.
So people can see the bus there. It's in different events around town. It's at the VFW on the Saturdays to be shown with the information and the phone numbers. But one of the exciting things that we've done is expanded that program into Las Vegas. For many, many months, we've had requests for that. So now on the first and Monday and Friday of each month, and on the third Monday and Friday of each month, we can take veterans to the VA clinic in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And that's been very successful now. That's been operating for just a couple of weeks. And but it was a huge request that we have had. We have a $50,000 budget under the Nevada Department of Veteran Services grant that runs this program. So we have to watch our spending to make sure that we don't overspend the program. But we want to make sure that we maximize everything that we can do for the veterans' needs and their transportation needs.
Okay, for those that might know, and I want to say it here, on June 2nd, we're having what we call a Veterans Extravaganza. It's being put on by Assemblyman Oscarson, who's gotten some vets together to just talk about what veterans need. And one of the things we're going to have at that, it'll be at the Bob Roode Center, June 2nd, from 1 to 5 p.m., and the Vet Trans bus will be there so that veterans know exactly this is a program that works. And this way, I think we can get the word out better. And also, while they're there, we'll talk about some of the other transportation needs and programs.
Yeah, there's quite a few opportunities coming up over the next few months where different events.
Yeah.
We were recently at the Business Expo. We had a table there with information and flyers that were passed out. All 200 flyers were taken.
Right, the Easter picnic.
Yeah, the Easter picnic. There's a Veterans Barbecue coming up.
Yes.
And so any of those events that we can get into, the Veterans Stand Down, we make sure that we're there so that veterans can see A lot of them don't get their information through the newspapers. We've had front page articles on the program. A lot of people don't read the paper.
Right.
Some of them don't see it on TV. So we've got to use every other method we can to get into the community, to get face-to-face with the people that have the need, to make sure that we can help them service that need.
Right. And one of the best ways to do that are our viewers here to talk to their neighbors.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
talk to your friends, talk
right.
to your family, talk to your neighbors.
Right.
And write down the information. We keep putting it up on the screen for the phone numbers that you can call. If you have any questions or anything else, be sure to write that down. And I got to emphasize that my memory is bad. If I tried to remember everything that I saw or heard, I'd never get there. So I take a lot of notes, and that's why I'm encouraging you to do the same thing.
And it's important on the VetTrans phone number that they dial the 775. So it's 775, 572 vets. They have to dial that prefix in there as well.
Okay. Is there a time when you don't?
Nope, you need to dial that all the time. And they take calls for schedules. Calls have to be scheduled at least 24 hours in advance.
Okay.
They take calls Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And you can leave a message if nobody answers, and they'll get right back to you, because there's many times we're on the phone with another client.
Okay.
But it's, as long as you give that call within 24 hours notice, we can always get someone scheduled.
Sounds great. Okay, we're running out of time. Salli, is there anything else you'd like to add before we run out of time?
Well, just briefly, the excitement of hopefully seeing this culminate in buses on the road.
Oh,
Join us
that'd be
from the
beautiful.
community. It'll be a beautiful thing. So as you watch this unfold in the next few months, please join us in the public events and signing and being willing to commit to community.
So we can all celebrate together.
Yes,
Anything
absolutely.
else, Albert?
She just said it perfectly, exactly what I would say right there.
Okay, that sounds good. Look, we're running out of time again for this evening, and we want to thank you for being with us. I want to thank Salli and Albert for being here. They've given us so much information, and we provided so much to you. Transportation in Pahrump is needed, but we're going to be talking about this forever and ever. We'll see you next month.